how to handle forms validations in React. How do we deal with them? Actually, uh, forms and validations, how do you manage in React? Actually, to manage forms and interactions, traditional techniques are there, but already we discussed that those traditional techniques needs lot of data binding, event binding, and class binding. So without any use of third parties, we can do that with React, but it is lengthy process. By the help of third parties, we can simplify. I will show you both, means without any third party, how we manage. With the third parties, generally how we manage, right? Depending on situation and requirement, because using additional libraries is always a burden to application, right? Whenever you are trying to use another third party library, then it is burden to application. So depending on requirement, if there is no other chance, we cannot use any other, there is no other chance of handling, then we will go with third party. Otherwise, we will manage everything internally, right? So we will see both techniques, how to handle forms and validations with whatever React is having, right? And how we can manage that with third party. For that, first you need to understand how form handles the interactions. So technically, form and interactions, interactions and validations are managed by using event and data binding techniques. Event and data binding techniques. By using event and data binding techniques, we have to manage everything. Form interactions, form validations, we manage using event and data binding technique. So React uses event and data binding implicitly without any additional libraries. Event and data binding implicitly without any additional libraries. We already know that. That means for events or for data binding, you don't need any additional library, because all events are React events. All React events are synthetic events, na? Synthetic events. All React events are synthetic events. So that map to the DOM events, DOM events, that map to the DOM events. Synthetic events are virtual events, right? These virtual events map to the DOM events. So by using these events and data binding, you can handle validation. Let's see one example how we can manage. And effects we can define by using style binding. React can also use style and class binding for validation styles. Red color, green color, different types of validation styles we can define by using style binding and class binding. So React can handle the forms and validations internally by itself without any third parties, but you will feel it, you will see it, that it is very lengthy approach. Then obviously as a developer, you will ask for, sir, is there any shortcut for this? Do I need to do all this, right? We will see first how we can handle the validations, interactions with the options. Actually, for that, we use a lot of events. Already I told you. So we use a lot of events. So I will show you a simple example. Events means different categories I explained. Key events, mouse events, how we can use. One small example I will show you how we can use keyboard events. So how we can use the keyboard events and how we can manage keyboard events. Actually, what are keyboard events? Generally, keyboard events we have like on key up. So we have like on key down. We have like on key press. These are the keyboard events, and keyboard events have some important properties they use. Like we have key code. Key code is a property. Key code is nothing but these are key events, key properties. These are the key properties. We have key properties. We have key code, we have char code, we have which, we have shift key. I hope you know this some. We have alt key, we have like control key. All these are key properties. These are all key properties. We have keyboard events and we have key properties. Key code, character code. So which key, shift key, control key, all these are the key related, some important options. So we will see one example how we can write validations in React. How to design a form, we can put some validations in the form. We will see traditional approach, right? Let's see. What I will do for that, I will add a new component. And let's keep this as form component. Form component .js. Okay. Now here I'm designing a simple export default function. So that is form component. And it will return some markup. So class some container fluid. Okay. Now here I will design a simple some form interface. We will see how to handle different validations here. For example, I'm creating so register user, and we have a data list, data term, user ID, and it is having a text box. Input type is equal to text. Now, what we want here is let's put this form component in the startup. Yeah. And this we have a simple user ID here. This is user ID here. Now, what I want here is I want a simple validation for this. When user is typing user ID, I need to verify is that user ID is already taken or not. If user ID is already taken, I should say it is taken. If it is not, then I should say it is available. You can use it, right? Later, we will do this with database and server-side integration. Here, what I will do is temporarily, I will put here some state. Let's import the state. So we have to import use state from React. And here I will define so users is equal to use state. Here I will just keep some users array. And in this array, I am just storing some user name, user ID. User ID is some John. That is one user ID. Some another user ID. So user ID is John12. John12. And another user ID is some David, like this. And here another user ID. So another user ID, some John_NIT, something like this. These are all the users information. Later we will pull from API database. So now when user is typing user name, user ID, I have to verify is this user ID is among these or not. If it is among that, then it should show some message here below. In that definition, it should say that user ID is taken. Try another. Now, how do we handle this situation? That means we have a form, we need some validation. Now, how do we manage this? For this, we have to depend on event binding, data binding, event binding. So what we will do is here, we will create another state. So constant, and we will define so user message MSG, user message, and set user MSG, set user message, and it is use state. It is a string type. User message is a string type. I want to display that user message in this data definition. That means I will use user MSG. It is empty currently. That is nothing. When user is typing then we have to handle a functionality. That means now we will write a function here, verify user ID. This verify user ID will fire up when user is typing the user ID. That means here we have to define on change. But here for every key we have to verify. For every character we have to verify. Then I can use on key up. On key up, we will access verify user ID. That means whenever you release the key immediately, I hope you have learned that key up, key down. Key up means it defines the action to perform immediately when key is released. Key down means when you hold down. When you hold down. Then what is difference between key up, key down, and key press? For example, I typed here John. If I ask how many keys pressed, then how many keys pressed here? 3. 3 keys only pressed. JOH. N is not finished because cursor is still there. If cursor is still inside that key, that means it is not finished. Key press means you finished that character, then key press is identified. Finished that character, then key press is identified. That means I finished the character means I use a space, then I finished N. Then it indicates that you pressed 4 keys. But if I put here N, how many keys pressed? 3 keys pressed. How many keys up? 4 keys up. 4 keys up. That means key up will fire up immediately. But key press will fire up after you finish. After you finish the character, you come out of that character, then key press, right? We need to identify that, right? 1 second. Now the question is, when should we use this? Generally, key up, key down will immediately fire up after every character you have released. But unfortunately, key up and key down, these two cannot, they cannot track the key code. That means every key have a code. If you have to do some interactions related to key code, then key up, key down will fail. Because key code is recognized for a key on key press. That means when you finish. That means now a developer have to decide according to the situation and requirement, like if he is dealing with the characters entered, then key up, key down is okay. But if he is dealing with the code of the key, why we need code of the key? We need code of the key to in various situations, like in order to know whether caps lock entered or not, whether space is used or not, or whether caps entered or not, we can do that. For that, we need key codes, ASCII codes. So that means if you are dealing with key codes, then you have to handle this key press. If you are not dealing with key codes, then we can use key up and key down, right? This is general actually in JavaScript also the same point. So here what we do now is on key up for every character. I will show you what is problem in key press. We will see that. Now I have to collect every character they are typing through event. So what we have to do now, we need to write a iterator. Let's write a condition for, we have to read user from for where user of the collection. Collection is users. Users is the collection. That means we are reading every user from this users. From this user, we are reading every user. Every user is an object which have user ID. Now what we are doing here, we are verifying if user dot user ID is matching with e dot target dot value. That means is it matching with the value you entered? Then set user message. We will put a message as user ID taken. Try another. This message we have to keep. Otherwise, else after displaying this, it should stop. That means we need a break. Otherwise, it is in a loop. It will continue. Right? We need a break. And here we will define set user message. This user ID available. User ID available. I will just keep that message here. Now you can see this message you are displaying here. That means when I am typing here the user ID, I am typing user ID John, it is user ID available. When I type John, then it says user ID taken, right? And if I type John 1, that means user ID is available, and John 1 2 is taken, right? We are verifying that, and we are handling with events, event binding technique. That means we are configuring through that event binding technique. So John 1 2 3, it is available. Suppose I said John, it is taken. John underscore NIT, it is taken, right? That is a simple form of validation. But another point here, suppose now if user ID is taken, I want to display this message in red color. If it is available, then I want to display in green color. Then how? That means now what we have to do is we need to handle the color for this message, right? On valid, it will be red color, green color. Invalid, it will be red color. That means now how do we manage the changing of color? For that, how to handle whether it is valid or not, right? So for that to handle, to understand, because this is just a text box, and how do you know whether it is valid or invalid? The value you entered is valid or invalid, because based on that we have to display the color. Then what we do is actually we have to create another here configured as is user valid. So and set user valid, set user valid. This uses use state, it is a boolean, by default is false. Is user valid true or false? Is user valid true or false? Now what happens is, if user ID is taken, what we will do is we will set user valid as a false. User valid is false, it is invalid now. It is invalid means user valid is false. User valid is false. If available means set user valid, set user valid is true. Valid is true if available, valid is false if it is taken, right? Now based on this I can define here an effect. Already we learned class binding and style binding. So see what I am doing now here. We will use a class name, and this can use a dynamic value. In this we have to configure the expressions. That means what is the class name, which class name you want to apply, and which class name you want to apply, and what is the condition for that class. We need to handle both the situation. That means which class name to apply and what is the condition for the class. Actually we can write an expression here. What is that expression is, so if this is a ternary operator, if is user valid is equal to true, right? Then question mark, I will put here text success. Understood? Text success is a bootstrap class. If not valid, then colon, you know this is a ternary operator, and we will use as text danger. That means we have to write such expressions to dynamically change the effects. This is very much complicated, but this is how React can do. Now developers are not very much satisfied with this because this is very lengthy. We need simple shortcut techniques. For that we depend on third parties, but we will see this first. Right now the point here is how we configure. I am entering the user ID, then it says green. I entered John, it says take and try another. That means it is green when it is valid, and it is red when it is taken. That makes sense. But this is very lengthy process, but this is the only way how React can individually manage. This is the only way how individually React can manage. That means verifying the values, validating the values, displaying the messages, and changing the message, changing the effects of message. This is lengthy approach, right? But these type of options you should know. And very important here is another important point. I will show you now here why I haven't used key press for this, right? Let's do this now. I am using on key press. I am using on key press. When I'm using on key press for this, you can see that. So let's refresh here. I'm using on key press. Now I am typing here. So user is available. And so user is available. John, it is taken but not showing. Why it is not showing? Because n is not finished. I already told you that n is not finished. When it will think that n is finished, space, right? Or you type another character, right? Now this is showing it. That's not great. So that is the reason this, for this situation, key press is not good. For this, we have to use key up, key down like events. Actually, these are all same how you do in JavaScript. Here we are implementing with the technique, right? This is one. Okay. Now, when we use this key press, if we have to deal with codes and other, you can have multiple events. Actually, after they entered, so John is taken, John 1, 2, so or 3 available. After they finish typing, it should disappear now. That means that message should be only when they are typing. So that means we call this method as actually touched. That means when it is touched and you do some modification inside it, then it should display. Otherwise, once they come out of it, then it should not display that message. Then what we do generally is we write another event that is on blur. On blur indicates what action to perform when it loses the focus. That means when element loses the focus. What we will do is we will hide user message. I am writing hide user message. I am writing hide user message. That means on blur, here we are defining. That means I will write another function. So another function, what is it? Hide user message. What it should do? Set user message. User message. It should be empty. It should be empty. Just it should clean up. It should keep it empty. That means now what we are doing here. So initially we will type, it will display David. David is taken. Some David underscore NIT. It is available. You finish, then it is hidden. Right. Again, you click inside and you start typing. It is saying available. Right. It is saying it is taken. Right. So we can write multiple conditions. If it is already taken and they blur the another message. Right. So that depends on the conditions. Right. How do you configure? So it is available. David 1 is available and it is finished. We have to use a combination of lot of events. One on key up, another on blur. For example, now see, this is okay, 1 point. Now let's create another field. I will say password. And I need to verify input type. Input type is equal to password. So password, okay. And here I need to verify password and I need to display password strength. Is it weak or strong or poor? Then generally how you do the validations for that? We have regular expressions. Am I right? We have to use regular expressions. We have to write regular expressions. We have to manage using regular expression. For example, now I will keep another data definition. When user is typing the password, I need here, I'm writing on key up. On key up. When user is typing the password, verify password. Let's write that function. That means here we are defining a function, verify password. It have to read the password user entered and I need to check the password strength and I want to display. Is it strong? Is it weak? Then for example, now you see here, we will put another reference here, another reference. This is password message, password PWD MSG, password message, set password message. And this password message use state, it is also empty. This password message we have to display here. Here I need to display the password message. So PWD message. We need to display that message. And what is the message? Here I am writing on key up. So how do we write? I hope you learned regular expressions, right? How do we write regular expression and verify regular expressions? Actually, we can directly define like this. So if E dot, so E dot target dot value, that means whatever the value you are typing, dot match. I hope you know that match is a string function of JavaScript. It is used to verify the string against a regular expression. against a regular expression. And here, what is the regular expression? We have to write the regular expression. That means we need to configure the regular expression. Generally, you know, regular expressions are written with double slash. Regular expressions are written in double slash. That means I am writing a regular expression. This regular expression is question mark equal dot star square brace a hyphen z and slash w 4 comma 10. This is a regular expression to verify that password have at least one uppercase letter. I hope you already learned regular expressions in your HTML JavaScript, how to write regular expression. We have to use the regular expressions to validate the values. And regular expressions, you know that they are built by using meta characters and quantifiers. I written a simple regular expression. This regular expression indicates that password must be 4 to 10 characters alphanumeric because slash w is alphanumeric with underscore. And this expression before it indicates that it must be at least one uppercase letter. One uppercase letter is compulsory. If it is matching, if this regular expression is matching, then what should happen? We will set password message as strong password. We will put a wrong password. And I'm writing else, if else another condition. In this again, if e dot target dot value dot length, if length is less than 4, if length is less than 4, then set password. We have to define, set password will be like poor password. Poor password. We are defining like poor password. Else, what should happen? Else, that means it is not poor password and not strong password. Then set password as weak password. We define as weak password. That means now here I am verifying the password here. I entered the user. This is available, right? David is taken. David underscore NIT is available. It's finished. Password is a poor password because it is having only one, David. I am typing. Now it is weak password because minimum 4 characters are required. Less than 4, it is poor. Minimum 4 characters, it is weak. I am using some numbers also, still not satisfied. Still not satisfied. I am using one uppercase letter anywhere one uppercase letter, then it is strong. That means we are verifying. And for this also you can put colors and effects and whatever you want for that, just like I showed you the expression, how you define that. This time we are verifying and we are configuring that password. Now the same, once the password is blur, then we need to hide that message. Password is blur, we have to hide the message. That means again we have to write, remember all these points. On key up you are writing, on blur you are writing logics. Remember all this. When you see third party, you will understand that, oh, this much simple. That means I don't need to write blur, I don't need to write key up, but it is going to verify. So such third parties are available, which will make all this very simplified. Otherwise, for every element, you have to write key up or not, focus or not, blur or not, so many things, right? So initially now on blur again, I have to write, what is it? We have to define a function. What is it? Hide password message, hide password message, password, hide password message. And what it should do? Set password message. It should be empty. Hide password message. And when it should fire up? On blur. On blur, we have to define it. On blur, so we have hide password message. So we need to configure hide password message, MSG. We have to define that hide password message. Now, for example, now this is all key up events we have defined. So we are entering the name. It is their poor password. It is weak password. It is strong password, and it is finished. Right? Whenever you are again typing, it will get that it is a still strong password, and you remove that it is weak and this is poor. Right? This is verifying. Now, sometimes the validations are defined. Validations are defined by using options like, here we are using regular expression. Here we are using regular expression. Remember, regular expression you need to carefully write. right? Because you know regular expressions are very important. You cannot imagine a form without regular expression. A form is designed means it will use lot of regular expressions, and everything we cannot satisfy with regular expression. Everything we cannot satisfy with regular expression. We have to handle so many events and other type of functions also. For example, I will show you. Suppose now tell me, how do we handle here? One more point we will put for password. For password, suppose I typed capital letter, then I need a warning, because when anybody is typing capital letters in passwords, they should know that they are typing capital letter, because accidentally sometimes caps lock is on and you haven't noticed you are typing the password. It should show that status. Then how do you verify that caps is typed or not? They are typing capital letter inside or not? Because capital letter can be typed in any way, not only with caps lock. They can type with shift key, capital letter will come, with alt key, capital letter also comes. Alt key also have a caps point, right? With alt key we can use, with shift key we can use, with caps lock. So we need to verify capital is typed or not. In that case, so see what we have to do now. Not only just changing the message. Till now what you have done, one message you are changing and replacing with another message. Or what you are doing, you are simply making the message empty. Not like that. Many times we need to show and hide the contents. That means not erasing the content, show and hide the content. That means if password, so here we, if contains a capital letter, I will put here a simple data definition. Here I will put a span. So class name bi. So I have exclamation triangular. I think I have exclamation triangle or something is there. Bi classes are there. And here I will put as caps on. Here I will put the class name. So class name here I will put here as text warning. I am defining text warning here. So caps on is there. Triangle. We don't have that spelling wrong. Bi exclamation triangle, right? Spelling wrong, right? Okay. This is the option we are having. Yeah. Now you see there is a simple caps lock. Now what we have to do is, this should not display. It should display only when capital is entered. Now it is not about erasing the message. It is about showing and hiding the message. Now tell me dynamically how you can hide this area. How you can hide any element dynamically. In JavaScript, how you done? You have to set display as none. Am I right? Of course, there is no hide option. Suppose if you are using jQuery, we have. jQuery have a show hide method. You can use the show hide method of jQuery. Here we have to use a simple style. Actually, what we have to do is, here again, this should display. So it should use the effect. That means we have to display accordingly, right? That means now what you can use options like expression you can use. Actually, we can configure the expression here. Suppose I will do one thing. I will remove this. I will keep this in a span, main span. Okay. And this span contains the class name as text warning. Okay. This data definition I need to hide or display dynamically depending on password. Right now, see here, how do we verify whether they typed a capital letter or not? For that, we have to use an event. So on key press. You cannot use on key up and key down because they cannot recognize the key codes. And capital letter typed or not, we can identify based on the key codes. That means what you can do here on key press. So we will use verify caps. I'm using verify caps. Let's write the function. So on key press, we have to verify the caps. Here I'm writing the function as verify caps. And here I'm accessing event. Okay. Now, how do you verify? How do you verify whether they entered a capital letter or not? So we can simply write a condition if E dot key code, not target. Target is to get the information about object, and E is about information about the event. Event related properties you can access by using E, and object related properties you can access by using E dot target. Right? E dot key code is greater than or equal to 65, and E dot key code is less than or equal to 90. The key code is greater than 65 and 90. The key they are typing inside it. There are several techniques I will tell you here. So if it is that, then what should happen? If key code is 65 to 90, that means caps is on. So that means I will put here one option. So I will write another constant. This is caps status, right? And set caps status and use state. We will use here true or false or cap state. Actually, cap state, what we can use, we will put true or false. We will put true or false. That means by default, I will put as false. It's a Boolean value. That means what should happen here is caps state. If this condition is matching, what should happen? Set caps status as what? True. Cap status as true. So else what should happen? Set caps status as what? False. We need to configure like this. Cap status is true or false. And now we have to define here. So that means here we need to display this data definition. For that we will use a class name. Here we use the binding expression. So what is it? Caps status, right? Caps status. If caps status is equal to true, if cap status is true, then what should happen? We should apply question mark a class called dBlock. We should apply a option called dBlock. dBlock is display block. It is a bootstrap class. Otherwise, we have to use dNone. Display block, display none. You have display styles, right? You know display styles. Actually, dBlock and dNone are related to bootstrap. They will use display block and display none. If caps is true, display block, and if it is not, display none. So here we need to configure that option here. Now I am typing the password. Now it is showing poor password, weak password like this. I entered caps here. It should display that. So some issue is there. First we will check this key code is returned correctly or not. So actually console.log e.key code. Key code is not returning. That is the problem. So we will do one more thing. Why? There may be several reasons actually. Why? Because browser compatibility, your keyboard compatibility also will be there. That means you may be using a multimedia keyboard or a limited keyboard without any separate numeric keypad like options. That is the reason as a developer, you need to do one more thing. I hope you know the difference between key code, char code and which. All three will return the same. I hope you know that all three return with the same. If key code and char code are not returned by any keyboard, because you may be using Mac keyboards and all, in that case, we have to check all the three. So I will check one more option, or I will check e dot which will verify in every keyboard, right? If which is greater than or equal to 65 and e dot which less than or equal to 90. That means it may be key code or which. Verify any of these, right? Now let's run this and see. Here I am typing, so still key code is not coming. The caps lock is come. It's very fine, right? This is, we written only key code. We haven't written which key. Key code is 0, but which key is able to identify. Understood? Which key is able to identify. Key code is 0. I am using here key code. Key code is 0, but key code unable to identify. But actually on certain keyboards, key code will identify. That is the reason you already learned in JavaScript that compatibility issues will be there. As a developer, you have to write for different browsers. You have to write for different devices, right? So here we have to use both because we don't know which one will be verified, because user may be using different keyboard layouts. Because if you see the multimedia keyboards and Mac keyboards and Windows keyboards layouts will be little different. In that case, you cannot get everything using key code. We have to get by using which. That's the reason I am using both of them. So see now what we are doing here. Let's type. So I don't need this anymore. I will remove this. Yeah. So here what we will do, I am typing the password and I am typing the password. It is poor. And suddenly you entered an uppercase letter here. You entered an uppercase letter. It says caps is on. It is just warning. It is showing the message strong that, but caps is on, right? And once I finish, it still says caps is on. Of course, you can clean up this also. Again, what you can do is once you finish it typing, in the hide password, right there itself, you can also set option. Set, what is it? Set caps, right? Set caps status. We can set it to what? False. False means it will be display none. Display none. That means that is on blur event, right? So that means you entered the password and you entered a capital letter, you finish it, it will hide. You can put in all the locations. Now this is how we can handle the values and manage them, right? So validations and interaction with forms, if React alone have to handle these, all it have to do. Now can you tell me, suppose if user ID is not entered, then I have to show required error, right? Then how? You cannot use required attribute. Required is a HTML attribute. In HTML, you know, na? In HTML, you have this text box can be defined with required. Na? We can use it. HTML5 have min length, max length required. But this is a DOM required property and React cannot recognize this. Cannot recognize this. A third party React library can recognize this, but React directly cannot recognize this. In that case, it cannot verify. It cannot verify is required satisfied or not. You have to manually write. That is nothing complex. You already know now. That means how you will verify the value entered or not. Right? That means, for example, I have set user message now. So set user message. How you will verify value entered or not when it loses the focus. When it loses the focus, that means we will use blur event. Na? So on blur event, you can get the message. That means here you can simply put an option. So here I will write here, this I will remove. I will say if e dot target dot value is empty. Am I right? If value is empty, there is nothing inside it. That means what? Set user message. So set user message. We will say user ID required. Am I right? We say user ID required. Otherwise, what we do is we say set user message empty. Right? That means when user enters into this without typing anything comes out, it says user ID required. Right? We have to verify. And you entered something, user ID is available, taken, it will display the message. Now, so it is fine. I am not entering anything inside it and click outside. It says user ID required. Again, color we have to change. I haven't given the color. Now valid, invalid also you have to write. Right? If you write valid, invalid, then it will display the colors also reasonably for that. Otherwise, the previous, you have to set is user valid. No? That means is user valid true or false. Right? That you have to configure again. So everything you have to manage by using events and data binding. For example, now suppose I have a data term and here I said city, your city, right? And I am using a data definition, a drop down, and here we have an option. They say select your city. And here we have another option. So Delhi, we have another option. So say Hyderabad, like this. Now, how do we verify that city selected or not? That means if city not selected, it should show a message, please select a city. That means if you select the first one, it should say that please select a city. If you selected the second and third, it is okay. But if you selected the first one, that means it should say please select a city. Because the first one is not a city. But remember, all three are options only. Am I right? All three are options only. Then how you will tell that this is not a city? How we will tell that is not a city? For that, generally what we have to do is Now these drop downs will use an event on change. On change, we will use verify city, verify city. Now here, very important, this option have a value. This option have a value. The value is no city. So we will put the value and we will see not city. Understood? That means the first one is not city. And the second one value is Delhi, right? Second value is Delhi and third value is Hyderabad. We can put those values for submitting, but the first value is not city. Now what should happen is when user selects here, that means we have a function verify city, verify city. It should get the name of the city that user selected. Name of the city user selected. That means we have to define if e dot target dot value is equal to not city. If not city, then put a message, right? That means here I will put a city message, right? So a constant, a city message, and we have set city message use state, and it is an empty. And here we will display that city message below this drop down. Below this drop down, we will display it. This is a city message, city message. And what should we set here? That means we have to set as set city message as what? Please select a city. Please select a city. Colors and effects you can give whatever you want. Then here we need to define. Otherwise, set city message, it will be empty. There is nothing to define. And here I will just put a class name as text danger. And you can see here, and we are selecting here. I'm not selecting any. This is selected. That is fine. I'm not selecting any city. It will display. Right? We need to handle the validations for radios, for checkboxes. How you will validate radios and checkboxes? We have to use checked property. Right? We have to use checked property. If it is checked, then selected. Otherwise, not selected. These are all the basic things we need to handle. That means how we can define. You can use anything. It doesn't matter. You can use any value. There is nothing for that. You can use any value inside it. Right? There is nothing for that because it is just value. Value is your own value. You can give any value for that. Right? Because some people have an habit of, because some people have an habit of giving this as -1, 0, -1. Why they give minus? That is nothing, because that is only string, right? They give -1 because according to them the city starts with 0, and this one they will give as -1, but it doesn't matter. This is also a string, right? You give -1 or anything, you have to verify with -1, right? That is okay when you are, so when you are verifying from when you are adding data from dynamic. That means if you are dynamically generating the list and loading the list, then index number starts with 0. And if there is not available, then people treat it as -1, but not required. You can give any name here, right? This is basic validation. So, and interaction with the form. Now, another point is here, the question is how you will collect all the form data on submit. Another point, right? That means, okay, you verified it, you have done all the things, you collect. Now, the point is whatever data entered in all these controls, that means what I need here, I need a button, right? So I need a register button. On register button, I need to submit all these details. Now, how do we collect all the details entered? Again, already we learned previous session, right? Data binding. Again, we have to write on change for everyone. Am I right? We have to write, you written on key up and everything. But if you want to bind anything with value, you learn that you have to write on change. That means what we have to do, we have to write on change for everyone. On change for everyone, collect every individual value, store in one object. And when this register button is clicked, collect the value and display. Already we done that example. Already we done an example where we collected all the form data stored in an object and displayed when they clicked on register. That means now what we have to do, we have to write a change event for every reference. Through that change event, we have to collect all the values from them and submit them. That means what we need to do here, actually, we need to create another object, right? We need to configure another constant, right? we need to define, suppose user details, user details, set user details. In this user details, use state, it is an object. This object contains user id, it is empty. It contains another one, password, it is empty. Another one, it is containing city, it is empty. All these details are defined. Now when user is typing, all these details need to be collected and stored in user details, right? That means for every element you need a change event to configure again. Am I right? Right, to collect the values, so we need to define on change. That means what we have to do, so on change, what we have to do is, so handle, I will just give handle user change. Okay, similarly here another one, on change, what we have to do, so handle password change. Here on change is already verify city is there. Now what we have to do here, just temporarily I will put here, you can write, you already learned na? So function, what is it, handle user change. What we have to do, e dot, so we have to get set user details, in this it is an object na? In that user id is what, e dot target dot value. Other details also important, right, that we have to get from user details dot password. Other details also important, city, we have to get from user details dot city. Already I told you this technique. That means next step, what we have to do, so in the next step we need to configure another function, handle what, password change. That means here it is user details dot user id, and here we have to collect the password from e dot target dot value, and we have to write another function, city also same. I will just put here, that is register. Am I right? Register click. On register click, we need to collect the details. I will use simply alert json dot string file. I will print whatever present in user details. Understood? Details. Actually what we do, later we will send that to our APIs. Here we write a post method to submit this data to API. This should fire up on register click. Am I right? That means on the button click, what we have to define, on click, what is it? Register click. That is the event to fire up. Now, as of now, we are not collecting the city. We are using user ID. So user ID, we are using password, right? Password, and we are just registering. Those details will come. City is empty. I haven't collected the city. We have to collect the city. That's how we have to manage the forms, validations, and submitting of data. This is too much, right? Now, immediately after the class, many people will complain that, sir, in the beginning, you said React is very easy to learn. And on every YouTube video, first point, people will teach you that React is very easy to learn, right? That means they will satisfy you because you have to continue that video. Right? If they say that React has this much to do, then you will say, no, I don't want React. Right? But actually, this is not required at all. Right? What we do is we use a lot of third-party integrations and shortcut techniques. By using third-party integration shortcut techniques, we can easily handle. But you should know that with integration of third-party, always there will be complexity in application. Compatibility issues may arise because the third party belongs to somebody else. We don't know. Or even it is supported by very high level people like Telerik. Then we have to customize the complete application suitable to that third party. Right? A lot of things will be there when you are using third party. That is the reason for certain forms. We don't want third party integration. Simply we handle with basic, simple forms. But this complex validation interactions are there. Then better you go with third parties. Now we will see how third parties can make all this easy, right? Simplify, right? So that we can easily handle the forms and validation. That we'll see tomorrow, right? So tomorrow we will discuss about how do we handle the third parties forms. The same things in an easier way, level by level we will see. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue.